We were at Hyatt Guns in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of the largest gun stores in America, definitely in North Carolina, and it's just 7,000 guns, 20,000 square feet of the facility, and we had a great time. There was a lot of guys came down to meet us. In fact, it was really cool. One guy came from Pennsylvania, was coming through to Columbia, South Carolina, and timed it so he could stop by to say hey. We had another family from Maryland that was coming down on vacation, and they also timed their visit for that Saturday, and then a whole lot of other people. But it was just really great to meet a lot of guys. We answered a lot of questions, and just, you know, it's always a good time when we can shake someone's hand. You know, I'm just looking at a camera right now, and when I can really put a face with the viewers that are out there, it means a lot to me. And while we were at Hyatt, one of the things we did was a seminar on, you bought your first AR-15, what's next? So we videoed that seminar, and this is about, not about buying an AR-15 and taking it to the range once a month, but buying an AR-15 as a home defense rifle or a self-defense rifle. Now this was done in one of their classroom areas, and it was full out packed, which was great. But the one thing is, you're going to hear a lot of noise, but they do have an intercom system that came on regularly, and if you see some cuts, that's probably what we're doing. Now for you guys that are seasoned AR-15 owners that have had them for a long time, that already have a plan for home defense, this video is going to be pretty basic, but it was really important. There's so many new AR-15 owners out there that I thought it was really an important subject. And what we do is go through the list, starting with the most important thing you need to buy right after you buy your AR, just down the list in priority. What I want to talk about mainly is, what do you need? Once you've got your rifle, what do I recommend? And I'm going to recommend some things that aren't necessarily this is something for you to buy a rifle and go out just to the range. That's not what I'm really talking about today. I'm talking about more of a home defense type situation. What do you need if you're buying a rifle? And to be honest with you, most of the guys that are going out and buying AR-15 rifles right now aren't buying them just to take out and shoot 20 rounds at the range once in a blue moon. They're really buying them thinking about, you know what, this is a nice rifle to have. It gives me full capacity to defend myself and my family. And I think somebody was talking about it earlier. They said one of the fastest growing industries in the country is home invasions. So, you know, we want to be ready for whatever. I know I just recently, we had a break-in our own home, and you know, it's pretty frightening. In fact, not even a half mile from my house 2 weeks ago, a guy was at home at 6 in the morning, and his house was busted, the door was busted in, 2 guys were there. He came from the top upstairs and looked down, and he said, I'm getting my gun. He went back, got his gun, he came back, they were still in the house grabbing stuff. And so he chased them out the front yard, they said, firing. So maybe he needs to get some training. But anyway, so first thing I'm going to recommend, once you get your rifle, the very first thing you need is ammunition. And guys, I recommend that you have on hand about 1,000 rounds of ammunition to put back. You can start out however you want to, but I think, you know, buying about 1,000 rounds. What I like to do is like last night, I was at Walmart. I ran in, just picked up a little bit of rounds. You come into a gun shop, just like Hyatt. You walk in, they're on the shelf. Just grab you a couple of boxes of ammunition. It's really easy, and before long, you know, you're going to have a good quality or good quantity of ammunition to put back. Because if any of you know, you start going out to the range, it doesn't take long to blow through it. It just doesn't take long. I mean, you turn around, if you're not replenishing your ammo, it really gets kind of crazy. So ammunition, I would say, is really the most important thing you can initially buy after you get your rifle. The second thing is magazines, and I got a couple of, these are some of their surplus magazines that were laying there. These are gun show magazines. Most of these have been very well used, shot a lot. But just to be honest with you, I haven't had any to fail, and I've had these for 20 years. They've got a lot of life still to them. They're kind of rough on the outside, but with that being said, honestly, picking up some nice Magpul magazines, they're not much any difference in price than the aluminum magazines, and they're good, high quality. Other thing is, you've got some different configurations. Whether right here, the 20 rounder. So if I'm going to a dedicated range to a bench, I put my 20 rounder in. It allows me to get a little bit lower, allows me to get a little bit more down toward the bench and get a little more stability. 30 rounders, of course, and then of course they make the 40 rounders. And they just work good. And in fact, I've done a number of tests on these, running them over with my truck, dropping them on their feed lips, you know, throwing them up through the driveway, doing all kind of stuff. And not only Magpul, but Lancer and all TACO, just different magazines. They seem to hold up, so I think it's a good investment. So I like to have about 6 magazines per rifle. Now, I've got a lot more than 6 magazines, but I got a lot more than 1 rifle. Okay, so first thing, ammunition, magazines. The next thing, which I think is really important, a lot of guys, like this rifle here, you have, this is a sight-ready carbine, so is this. These are sight-ready, and that means that there's not an A2 front post on it, there's not the rear sight, and these are made because a lot of guys are just putting on a scope, an optic. And you know, once you have your carry handle right here, it's very difficult to apply an optic to it. So a flat top really is important. But one of the things, if you just put an optic on here, you have no backups. And so to me, the first thing really that this rifle needs is a set of backup sights. Now, one of the reasons why is because you're going to probably put an optic on it. And so I have my optic on it. Of course, this is a poor example of something that's going to break. I've had one of these for about 12 years. No, I've had 14 years of Trijicon ACOG. Great investment, by the way. I mean, the one good thing about a Trijicon ACOG is that when you look through the sight, you have a dedicated etched reticle on there, but you also have a tritium bead. There is nothing really that can go wrong. There's nothing that can fail on this. And even if the tritium runs out in the 12 years or whatever it is that it'll last, you can have them replaced, but you still have the etched reticle. So if you're going to go ahead and get a red dot sight for your rifle, EOTech's very popular, and for good reason. They're good quality, they're great sights. A guy was at the range the other day and he threw his EOTech on there and he was shooting groups at 100 yards, pretty tight. And so even though this is just a red dot, but the one thing about a red dot is it's electronic. And electronics can fail, even high quality electronics. So that's why you definitely need to make sure you have a set of backup sights. Whether you get the standard, and I'm going to put these up here, whether you get some standard M-Bus, Magpul Pro, these are great little sights, these M-Bus sights. I've got a number of these, but the Pros to me are well worth the extra money. And these are great little iron, steel sights. They're not aluminum, they are steel. They're they hold up very well. But one of the things too that I want to talk about, especially with something like a red dot, and especially if you're going to grab something, if you grab a rifle and you pull it up, you've got to turn that sight on. Having your front and rear sights deployed when you've got your rifle sitting at the side is really going to be important if you have a red dot. So, see what I'm saying? So if you just, let's say, and I'm not going to try to get into what or why, it's a zombie invasion, or whatever, The thing is, in fact, it was funny because I never really thought about it this way, but if something happens and I just grab my rifle and I'm in a hurry to lift it up and no dot, then I've got to look around to see if I can find the dot. So I like to have my sights deployed. Now, one of the things about an optic is the U.S. military did an extensive study on optics on rifles, and really what was the advantage? I mean, what's the problem with just having iron sights? And after thousands of tests and different situations, this is an overwhelming advantage to have some sort of optic on your gun compared to those who do not have optics. And that's what they're facing right now. They're facing guys without optics, with crude, well, not with crude weapons, obviously the AK-47 is crude itself, but with just iron sights going against guys with optics, and it's just incredible how much of an advantage optics makes. So iron sights, they're great, and you need to become proficient with them, in my opinion, but having a good sight is important. And one that I kind of want to recommend if you're thinking a little bit more on maybe something that would be for a budget, but These aren't super cheap or anything, but they're high quality. These Vortex Spitfires. In fact, I just did a review on this. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I just did a good thing. This thing has a lifetime guarantee on it, right? This not only has a red dot, but it has an etched reticle in it. I really like that. I've got the Spark. I've got the Spark 2. Great little sights. Yeah, that's just a red dot there. But it's got an etched reticle, and then it has red and green lighted, illuminated reticles. So you've got a lot of advantages with this little scope. Something like this, kind of the best of both worlds. So if you throw it up, but one of the things too is this doesn't replace having iron sights, because this thing can get knocked. Now I did drop my rifle with this mounted, just like this. I mean, I dropped it straight on. It hit it 2 or 3 times. It didn't move. But in a really tough situation, you know, you're still taking your chance. Of course, your iron sights can get knocked too, but I think having, you know, 1 is none, 2 is 1. So optics are really important. Another thing that a lot of times, a lot of guys just kind of don't really think about is, yeah, that's a good idea, Robbie. You Rodney, just pass that around. Is a nice sling. A good sling is super important. If you're carrying a rifle around for whatever reason, and of course today, unless you live in Texas and you're protesting open carry, you know, most of us aren't carrying rifles around all the time. And really having a really good sling, or any sling for that matter. But I would say that the MS3 sling by Magpul is exceptional. There's a whole system based around their sling systems. So, but there's a lot of other type slings. I have some single point slings. This is a it will convert single and double, which I think is really cool, and it gives you some options. I do want to talk about a couple of things that are really important about the rifle itself. Your barrel and the chamber, the barrel chamber combination,
that would light up,
and your bolt carrier group, that is the most important part of your rifle. It's the most important part. Everything else, unless you have a warped receiver of some sort that's binding, but honestly, these 2 parts are what really make up your rifle. The rifle itself, in the chamber, it's really already head-spaced, and that's what really makes this a beautiful thing to be able to build and to be able to do some things with. Because the main thing is getting the correct amount of torque on your barrel that makes sure it's stable. Otherwise, these will headspace just fine, unless your barrel's used, it's been worn out, or your bolt carrier group is used. So your bolt carrier group, your barrel, just very important. And I would suggest a 1-in-7 twist barrel on a 16-inch. If you really want to go with a mid-length gas system, a lot of guys are going to piston. I personally am a DI guy. I just like the DI system. I'm used to shooting it, and I know it's just easy to fix in the field. One of the problems with piston guns, I'm not down on piston guns, but if you do have if you have a failure, it's going to be a catastrophic failure, and it's something you're not going to be able to repair in the field. If you want to improve accuracy on your rifle, and let's just take this one for instance, anything touching the barrel is going to affect accuracy. Now, a little carbine like this is still very accurate. But if you really want to get your accuracy down, the best thing to do is to get down to a free float handguard system. This is a VCM handguard. It's really thin, has the key mod system. This is really lightweight. It's going to lessen the weight of this whole area up here, but it will improve accuracy. So something like this, to me, would be a nice upgrade. Sometimes when you get into the ones with the Picatinny rails on the side, it gets kind of thick. And do you really need all that rail to put like accessories on? I mean, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Of course, having a nice grip, and this is one of the Mo Plus. I'll tell you what, guys, if you haven't, I'm a real big fan of this grip. It's Rodney's fault. But it's one of the regular Magpul grips. Honestly, I've never been a huge fan of the standard Magpul grips. I'll get Ergo grips or get something else. But now they put this rubber coating on here, this is a fantastic grip. It just, I don't know, it just fits in the hand very nicely. Here's the thing about grips, and I'll tell you guys, everybody's got different hand sizes. Everybody has different styles of shooting. They have different positions they want to be in. Go out and find the grip that works for you. You may like this. This may just fit my bill. I mean, this does. But there's a lot of other type grips out there. In fact, I'm doing a test right now on the ATI Scorpion, new Scorpion grip they have, that really brings your hand up and it gets it more straight with the trigger. That's a great system. So there's a lot of different out there, but you need to find the one that's best for you. We have your standard mag pull. Again, your standard. These stocks work. These grips work. They do. But anything, if you want to upgrade, you can definitely do that. Mag pull to me is one of the most innovative, and they have so many different styles to fit so many different needs. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of mag pull stuff. It's good, high quality, and go with the grip. Go with that. They do make a handguard that's really nice as well. So, but again, don't lose focus that the most important part of your rifle are these two areas, and then certain accessories that you have to go along. Guys, having a good cleaning kit, and in fact Roger's going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes about cleaning your AR. I always keep a bore snake around. My good friend Robbie Wheaton, who does a lot of custom gun stuff, he has a whole wall of bore snakes that he pulls off and runs them through his guns. He just really counts on bore snakes. This is a good way to start, but you definitely need to have a good cleaning system. And again, Roger's going to deal with that. Okay, another thing to really, I think, would be a good upgrade, especially if you want to get your accuracy down a little bit more, is a good trigger group. But let me warn you, there are a lot of triggers, competitive triggers, a lot of different systems out there. The standard trigger works in your rifle. And really, my go-to rifles, typically, my real go-to rifles, are going to have standard triggers because there's just less to face. Guns I like to take out to the range that I really want to get my accuracy down, that I want to shoot a lot, yeah, I love Timney triggers, CMC triggers, Geisley. I mean, there's a lot of great trigger systems out there. One I'm working out right now is the Hypertouch Hyperfire trigger. Beautiful system, it's a very strong system, but that will help with your accuracy. If you've ever pulled a standard military mil-spec trigger and the grittiness and just there's a buddy of mine has a Colt 20-inch, beautiful rifle. It has the worst trigger, and I'm not saying that across the board for Colts. It's not that at all. I've got some good Colt triggers, but that is the worst trigger, and it affects accuracy majorly. So having a good trigger system is really important. Not super important, but something maybe later on you want to add on. Okay, there's a lot of things that people put on their rails, bipods and tripods and 4 or 5 flashlights, and we were talking about on the way down here, there's even sheaths that you can put your knife on the front of your rifle. And there's a lot of different stuff, okay, and there's a lot of cool things, and I'll tell you what, there's going to be more stuff that people are going to want you to put on your rifle. But the AR-15 is a very lightweight system. It's made to be that way. If you're not careful, you're going to add a bunch of junk to your rifle, and it's going to make it heavy and unwieldy. And I'm going to tell you what, if you need to pull that rifle around, you don't want to have to drag a bunch of weight around to make it effective. So personally, the only thing I typically put on my rifles outside of the straight function of the gun is some sort of light system. It's an AIM Sports light with a Picatinny mount, has your pressure pad. This is actually pretty cool. But having a light source is really important if you're going to be talking about low light situations, and to be honest with you, that's usually when things happen. But not all the time. Here lately, there's been a lot of things going on early in the mornings. So late at night, early morning, but a good flashlight system can really help, either here or on your pistol. So I highly recommend this. Now if you want to put lasers and night vision, all kind of stuff on your rifle, then go at it. But I think that's really the big thing, is light is the most important. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is maintaining your rifle, but also building and knowing your rifle. Listen, if you've never built an AR-15 before, I highly recommend you do it. Number one, I got a buddy of mine just bought an AR a while back, and he was like, it's like black magic, it's like this mystery, it's like I don't know what, and I told him, I said, we need to build a rifle is what we need to do. And so it was funny, I just took it and I popped the pin out, and he said, it does that? And I'm like, dude. the bolt. But the thing is, they're very simple systems. Placing in your trigger system, your bolt carrier, taking down your bolt carrier, putting on your buffer tube. All this is, there's a process you do, but it's not very difficult. And it gives you the knowledge you need, how things function, but it also allows you to upgrade your rifle. So if you've never built a rifle before, I highly recommend that you do it. Now, if you're going to build a rifle, be careful, because if you're like me, it starts to become addictive, and that's not a good thing when you're talking about AR-15 rifles, because before long you find out you have multiples. And so anytime I get a new bolt or a barrel, then I got to build a new rifle. Really, the biggest thing, and I would recommend this very first, is just a bench magazine vise block. And you just put this in a vise. It's funny I got it upside down, but anyway, you put that in. You're able to work on your rifle. You can open the top and work through things. These are 20 bucks. It's not a big, it's well worth the money for this. Now, if you're gonna, and then any kind of trigger work, anything you're gonna do, you can do it with this, cleaning, whatever. Then we have the device block, which this actually locks on to your upper receiver. Or you're putting on handguards, or you're doing something to your gas tubes. This really stabilizes your upper receiver. Guys, if you're not careful, you get that upper receiver out of line, you start twisting that barrel, it can break and warp your upper. So this is really important, and it can crush it. This is, well, we don't really have an armorer's wrench. This is a little bit of an armorer's wrench. I would suggest getting one of the full-size armorer's wrenches to put on there. That's fine. But this will give you the idea. You need an armorer's wrench. Knowing how to maintain and take care of your rifle is really important. Okay, so now, that's all I want to talk about specifically. So does anybody have any questions? And it doesn't have to necessarily be AR related is the best, but yes.
What's the difference between like that Wyndham and the billet receiver? How's it? So billet rifle, what's the billet rifle?
Billet rifle is where they've actually CNC machined out of a piece of aluminum. The forged receiver has actually been forged in a forge where there's only like, and I've heard different numbers, but the most I've heard is 12 actual forges that make these in the country. I've heard there's less than that. So if somebody, in Wyndham says, well, you know, we have a forge lower. Guess what? Wyndham's not making this. Noveski is milling, they're doing the billet. But Daniel Defense, they're buying this from somebody. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people will say that a forge is actually stronger because of the forging process than the billet. But, in fact, I had a long talk with the guy that does billet. He said that really, he goes, this area, there's certain stress points in the forging that are not as strong as the billet. So, to be honest with you, the two, they're going to handle anything you can give them. They're going to be able to handle it. The one thing that I really love about billet is that, number one, it's customizable. I mean, like this, with the magazine well flared, even with the shell deflector, how it's cut away, all these parts are built up. It's just got a really customized look to it. It's really nice. Now, that's all well and good, but what I really love, though, about billet is that any machine shop with these plans in the United States can make them, and it's real hard to control that, if you get my drift. I like freedom. And I like the ability for companies to be able to do what they want instead of being limited just to 12 forges where somebody could turn the screws and cut off supply. That's why I like it. Another thing about billet uppers and lowers is the prices can be extravagant or they can be reasonable. I know Recoil Magazine just did a deal, and I think it was a couple months ago, about the billet lowers and uppers and some of the quality features. And I'll tell you what, there's some of these things that run $500 and $600 for a pair. So when Head Down came out with that 850 rifle that was billet and complete, that's why I was like, that's just a fantastic deal. So, okay. Any other questions about something? Anybody got a question?
What I got like what you were saying earlier, as far as the AR-15 goes, the best AR-15, it'd be best to build your own as opposed to buy a complete one.
I'm not going to say that it would be best, but what I am saying is that if you have an aptitude and you want to do something, I think that building your own rifle is a great way to go. one thing, the big thing is though, is the most critical part of this whole deal as far as knowledge, is making sure that this barrel and receiver are mounted correctly. Making sure that it has the right torque on the barrel. But it's 30 to 80 foot-pounds, so you've got a really wide range. And if you have a torque wrench, you can do that. Or you can take it to someone that has one. One thing too is you pay a 11% excise tax on firearms, on rifles.
Yep.
I mean, that's just the way it is. If you build your own, you're paying 11% on just the lower. Now I want to thank Larry Hyatt, especially. What a great guy. We just really had a great time. He was a gracious host, had a lot of fun there, and just want to thank all the guys at Hyatt because they were all so nice to have us down there and for us to be getting in the way, because I'll tell you what, there was a lot of stuff going on all day long. Here with Larry Hyatt from Hyatt Guns. We've had a big time today.
Big day, big day.
A lot of people, a lot of customers. Larry's just a great host, and I'll tell you, one of the things, and I told him the same, is all the guys that are in here are just super friendly. They were very helpful. I watched them all day long, and you're really providing a service to the community.
We have great people, and you know, I've been to gun shops. We want to have super knowledgeable gun people, but they gotta like people too, and that's a huge part of the gun industry. And sometimes there's a little deficit of that in some places. We want that to happen here.
So if you're in the Charlotte area, make sure you come by and see the guys here. There's a lot of different things they're doing. I know we did a number of classes, and you're going to see some of Roger's class with the cleaning of the AR and some other things that we did. But Larry, I just want to say thanks a million, and it's been great.
What a great time. It was just a blast.
All right.
Thank you.
And also the guys that Head Down, they came up from Georgia, picked me up. We rode straight up to Charlotte, had a great time together with Lee and all the guys, and delivered a lot of rifles there to Hyatt. And so in fact, they sold quite a few rifles that day. So guys from Head Down, that was a lot of fun. Plus the guys at Hyatt, I'll tell you what, there's just nothing better. Hyatt Guns, thumbs way up. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Now we videoed the seminar, so that's what this video is all about. And I want you to just, so we videoed that seminar, and we're gonna show that. Oh, wow, I can't. Ugh. Ah, crap. I'll tell you what, the mosquitoes are eating me alive.